Have you ever used MyFitnessPal to figure out how many calories you should be eating and it gives you a really low number? Then you look at your Fitbit or Apple Watch and it tells you burned way more than you thought you did? Well, I'm going to give you the best evidence-based way to figure out how many calories you should be eating from a registered dietitian and personal trainer. So let's get into it. Hey, it's Kaylee here with Curve Fit Academy, the #1 spot for curvy women to get active, healthy, and realize their true queen energy. If that sounds like your jam, be sure to subscribe, hit that notification bell, and join our accountability Facebook group linked in the description below. Today, we're going to be talking about your total daily energy expenditure, or your TDEE. What is it? How do we calculate it? And how do we use that number to achieve our goals? So if that sounds interesting, keep watching. Now, if you're new to the weight loss game, you need to be in a calorie deficit to lose weight. And all this means is that you're burning more calories than you're intaking through food. To count our calories that we intake, we use a tool like MyFitnessPal or something similar. But determining how many calories we burn is a little bit more complicated. A lot of equations get it really, really wrong, and it's definitely not the number that your Apple Watch or Fitbit tells you it is. So I'm going to break it down into its component parts and give you the best evidence-based method for estimating how many calories you're expending, also known as your total daily energy expenditure. So let's get into it. So your total daily energy expenditure accounts for all the calories that you burn in a 24-hour period from all sources, which is a lot more than just what you're burning in your gym session, for example. The biggest portion that contributes to the TDEE is your BMR, or your basal metabolic rate. This is the amount of calories your body burns while it's completely at rest. Like, for example, if you were in a coma, how many calories is your body burning just to keep its cells and tissues functioning? Okay, the second biggest contributor to your TDEE is NEAT, or your non-exercise activity thermogenesis. This is all of the calories you burn from doing physical activity that isn't necessarily intentional, like walking up the stairs to get to your bedroom, or walking from the car into the grocery store, or even just using your hands when you talk like I do. All of these little things add up to our total daily calories burned. So you can tell why when people talk about getting healthier, what's something that they often say? Oh, I took the stairs rather than the elevator, or I tried to walk or ride my bike instead of drive somewhere, right? All of these little things, even outside of the gym or outside of an intentional exercise, still count towards our calories burned. The third contributor to our TDEE is our physical activity, or our exercise activity thermogenesis. How many calories we're burning when we're doing intentional exercise, like going for a run, going to the gym, or something like that. Now you can tell that it actually doesn't contribute that much to our overall daily calories burned. So I'm sure this makes more sense when you think of the saying, losing weight is 80% diet and 20% exercise. Yes, exercise is still important, but the majority of our weight loss efforts are going to come from eating the right foods in the right amounts. And our last and smallest contributor to your TDEE is called your TEF, or the thermic effect of food, which is how many calories your body burns from digesting the food that you eat. Now, you could see that when people say weird things like, oh, make sure to drink and eat cold foods and beverages so that your body has to burn calories to heat them up, doesn't really make sense when you look at how small the contribution is. Of course, there is research to show that protein-rich foods have a higher thermic effect, so there's more calories burned from digesting them than rather than carbohydrate or fat-rich foods. However, there's a lot more benefits to eating a high-protein diet other than just burning more calories from digesting it, which we can talk more about in another video.
Okay, y'all, we are going to use this website called TDEEcalculator.net for our TDEE calculation. And the reason why I like this website is because it uses the Mifflin-St. Jean formula to estimate your basal metabolic rate, which, as we know, is the biggest portion of your TDEE. And the Mifflin-St. Jean equation has been researched and proven to be the most accurate when compared to other equations to measure your BMR. This says there's some errors and limitations that can be solved using indirect calorimetry, but that is a very expensive laboratory procedure. So without that at our disposal, this is the most accurate formula we can use. So let's jump into our example.
Okay, now that we know all the components of the TDEE, let's jump in and actually calculate an example one. I'll use my own metrics for this example, but please be sure to use your own as everyone needs a different calorie amount. So I'm gonna mark that I'm a female, my age is 24, and right now I'm about 165 pounds. My height is 5'6", and this is where most people kind of get wonky, is estimating their own activity. Now be sure that you're estimating the actual amount of activity you do, not what you wish you did, but what you are actually doing. So I know I'm doing moderate exercise only about 3 to 4 days a week. So I'm gonna pick that one. See if it's loading. There we go. And if you know your body fat percentage, you can add that in there. But since we're assuming that we don't, I'm just going to calculate. Okay, so now we're at the stats page here, and with all of the information that I put in, it says that my estimated maintenance calories are 2349. So we could just call it 2300. Now keep in mind that this still is an estimate. The best way to really tell what your maintenance calories are is trial and error with your own body. So for example, I could try out eating 2300 calories for a month, and if at the end of the month I haven't lost or gained any weight, then I would say that is a fair, fair maintenance calorie expectation. Now that we have our maintenance calorie estimate, how can we change this number in order to achieve our goals? Well, what most people will tell you to do is subtract, if your goals are weight loss, subtract 500 calories from it and make that your calorie limit for the day. And they usually say this because if you're in a 500 calorie deficit daily, over 7 days, over the course of a week, that will add up to be a 3,500 calorie deficit, which will average out to about a pound of body fat loss per week, because there's 3,500 calories in a pound of fat. Now, while this is mathematically correct, it's not really physiologically correct. Number one, our bodies don't lose weight perfectly linearly, and we don't always lose 100% body fat, as much as I would love to say that we do. We also know that we lose water weight, right? A more sustainable approach that I would recommend is using your own body and your own life as your data. So I would track everything that you eat for 3 days with no calorie expectations whatsoever. Track everything you eat in MyFitnessPal, and after the 3 days are over, take the amount of calories you ate during those 3 days and take the average of them. Now, once you have that average, compare it to your maintenance calorie estimate and see how close or how far off it is. If you're eating way above your maintenance calories, don't jump into a minus 500 calorie deficit off the bat. If you are a little bit closer to your maintenance calories, maybe then it's time to consider jumping into a calorie deficit, maybe not 500 right off the bat, but experimenting with 250, 300, maybe 400 calories. This is to make weight loss or whatever your goals are more sustainable and more supportive of an overall healthy lifestyle. Now, of course, if your goals are muscle or weight gain, you can just do the opposite and add somewhere around 500 calories to your maintenance to achieve that goal. But after you've taken those steps, congratulations, you know how many calories you need to achieve your goal. Now you just have to put that plan into action and eat those calories. But we all know calorie tracking is definitely not the easiest. Between myself and many of my clients, I've seen so many easily avoidable mistakes when it comes to calorie counting. Thankfully, I have a new video coming out that's the top 10 calorie counting mistakes and how to fix them. So if you want to stay tuned for that, be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss it when it comes out. With all that being said, guys, thanks so much for watching. Did you find this tutorial helpful? Let me know in the comments below, as well as any other ideas or questions you have around calorie related topics. I'd love to help you out. Thank you so much for joining. I'll see you next time.